Dominic Russo hit the brake so smoothly the black sedan barely dipped. The white lines of the crosswalk glowed under the streetlights, and for a split second, everything outside his windshield looked ordinary. Late afternoon traffic, a cold breeze pushing scraps of paper along the curb, a couple arguing softly on the corner. Then she stepped off the sidewalk. Evelyn Carter. Not a look-alike, not a memory playing tricks. It was her. Hair a little longer, a little darker at the ends, pulled back in a low ponytail like she had somewhere to be and no time to impress anyone. A camel coat hugged her shoulders. Her cheeks were pink from the wind, and her hand, her left hand, rested on her belly in a way that made Dominic's lungs forget how to work. Pregnant. His body reacted before his mind could argue. His pulse slammed. His palms tightened on the steering wheel. The world narrowed until there was only the crosswalk and the woman he had once sworn he would never lose. Evelyn looked up. Their eyes collided through the glass like a hit he didn't see coming. Her steps didn't stop, but something in her face did. An instant of shock, then a calm that was too controlled to be real, like she'd trained herself for pain and refused to let it show. Dominic didn't move. He couldn't, because in that moment, he wasn't the man everyone feared. He wasn't the boss with the city at his fingertips. He was just a husband who had signed divorce papers months ago and was now watching his ex-wife carry a child that his instincts recognized like a brand. His. Evelyn kept walking. Her boots clicked softly on pavement. 1 step, 2, 3. Dominic's throat went tight. 1,000 questions rose at once. Why didn't you tell me? How far along? Are you alone? Is it mine? But the last one wasn't a question. It was a knowing that hit him so deep it felt physical. Evelyn reached the far curb. She didn't hesitate. She didn't look back. She slipped into the flow of people on the sidewalk like she could disappear through sheer force of will. Dominic's foot hovered above the gas. His entire body screamed, "Go after her." His pride hissed, "Don't you dare." His heart, quieter and meaner, said, "If you let her walk away again, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." The light changed. Drivers behind him tapped horns, impatient. Dominic didn't care. He pulled over at the first opening, parked like a man who didn't know how to do anything slowly, and got out. Cold air slapped his face. He didn't feel it. He looked down the sidewalk. Evelyn was already farther than he expected, moving with purpose, one hand still protective at her belly like a secret she refused to share. "Evelyn!" His voice came out rough. She didn't turn. Dominic started walking, long strides cutting through pedestrians with the kind of presence that made people move without understanding why. He wasn't pushing. He wasn't threatening. He simply existed, and the sidewalk opened for him. He was almost close enough to touch her coat when she finally stopped. Not because he called her name, because someone bumped into her from behind, a guy staring at his phone. Evelyn stumbled, caught herself fast, and Dominic's hand shot out on instinct, hovering near her waist without making contact, like his body refused to risk jarring her. The guy mumbled, "Sorry," and moved on. Evelyn steadied her breath. Then she turned, slowly, like she was choosing her posture with care. Her eyes met Dominic's again. Closer now, no glass between them. He expected anger. He expected tears. What he saw instead was a cool, polite expression, like he was a stranger who had said hello at the wrong time. "Dominic," she said. Just his name, nothing else. The way she said it cut worse than shouting. It told him she had practiced being okay without him. Dominic looked at her belly. He hated himself for it, but he couldn't help it. Evelyn's hand shifted, a subtle move, as if to block him from staring too long. "Don't." "Don't what?" he asked, his voice lower. "Look." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Don't do this in the street." "I didn't plan this," he said. He stopped, because saying "I didn't plan to see you pregnant with my kid on a random Tuesday" sounded insane even in his head. Evelyn glanced around. People were passing, not paying attention, but Dominic knew how fast attention could turn into stories. "Move," she said, firm. "Walk with me." It wasn't an invitation. It was a command dressed in a calm voice. Dominic fell in beside her, matching her pace without crowding her. The old instinct to shield her from sidewalk chaos came back instantly. He didn't touch her, but he positioned himself to her left, between her and the street, like he had done 100 times when they were married. Evelyn noticed. Of course she did. Her mouth twitched like she was annoyed at herself for noticing. They walked in silence for a few steps. Dominic's mind was a storm, but he chose one thing at a time. "How far along?" he asked. Evelyn didn't answer immediately. Her gaze stayed forward. "Far enough." Dominic exhaled sharply. He wanted to laugh at the ridiculousness of that answer, but his chest was too tight. "Evelyn, you don't get to say my name like we're anything," she replied. "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you mean. It always is." He bit back the urge to argue. Months ago, the last time they spoke, arguing had turned into something sharp and ugly. Papers. Signatures. A clean ending that had never felt clean. Dominic swallowed. "Is it mine?" Evelyn stopped so suddenly Dominic almost stepped into her. She turned her face up to him, and for the first time her calm cracked, just a hairline fracture in her eyes that told him the question was a punch. Then she did something he didn't expect. She smiled, not warm, not friendly. A small, tight smile that said, "Of course you'd ask that." "Do you really think I'd let some random guy touch me?" she asked quietly. Dominic's breath caught. His jealousy flared hot and stupid, even though he had no right to it. Evelyn's smile vanished. "But don't mistake that for an invitation to claim anything." Dominic stared at her, helplessly focused on her lips, the curve he knew too well. "Evelyn, I'm not trying to—" "You're trying to control," she cut in. "I'm trying to understand." "Understanding is what you want now?" Her voice stayed soft, but every word hit like a clean slap. "After you signed your name and walked out like it was a business deal?" Dominic's throat moved. It wasn't a business deal. It felt like one. He clenched his jaw. He remembered that day too clearly, her eyes glassy but proud, his own hands steady even while his insides caved in. He had told himself it was better, safer, cleaner. He had told himself a lot of things. Evelyn started walking again. Dominic followed. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home." Dominic's gaze flicked to her belly again, and this time she didn't block him. "Alone?" he asked, and he hated how personal it sounded. Evelyn hesitated. "Yes." That single word set something off inside him. Not anger, not possessiveness, protectiveness. It was instant, unreasonable, and absolute. Dominic didn't slow. "Then I'm walking you there." Evelyn let out a short laugh that surprised him. It was humor, but with a bite. "You can't just decide that." "I can decide whatever I want," Dominic said automatically. Evelyn stopped again and faced him. "There he is." Dominic blinked. "The man who thinks his decisions are the universe," she said, voice calm. "You want to walk me home? Fine, but you will not raise your voice. You will not send anyone after me, and you will not act like my body is a territory you're taking back." Dominic held her gaze. Her eyes were the same as always, soft brown, but not soft in spirit. She wasn't fragile. She had never been. He nodded once. "Okay." Evelyn looked suspicious, like she didn't trust agreement that came so easily. Dominic couldn't blame her. They walked again, side by side. The city noise wrapped around them. Cars, distant sirens, a dog barking from a balcony. A few blocks later, Evelyn glanced at him. "How did you even end up on that street?" Dominic's mouth tightened. "I was driving." "That's not an answer." Dominic almost smiled. That line was familiar. Evelyn had always hated vague answers. She had once said it was like living with a man who could negotiate anything except his own feelings. He looked ahead. "I had a meeting." "With who?" He hesitated, then decided to keep it simple. "A contractor. For a new property." Evelyn hummed like she didn't care, but her eyes flicked to him again. "So you're building something?" Dominic heard the subtext. You're always building, always expanding, always moving forward. Did you ever stop to think about what you broke? He swallowed and kept his voice even. What about you? Evelyn didn't look at him. What about me? Are you working? He asked. Evelyn's lips pressed together. Yes. What? She gave him a look like he was asking for her social security number. I'm not telling you everything. Dominic's fingers flexed. I'm not trying to interrogate you. You don't know how to talk without it sounding like you're making a file. That stung because it was true. Dominic slowed half a step. Evelyn, he said quietly, I'm trying to do this right. She glanced over. There is no right. That's not... Evelyn lifted her chin. Dominic, you're not here because you suddenly became a different man. You're here because you saw my belly and your brain went into emergency mode. Dominic didn't deny it. Evelyn exhaled, and for a second she looked tired. Not weak, just exhausted from carrying everything alone. I don't need emergency mode, I need peace. Dominic's voice softened. Are you at peace? Evelyn's steps slowed. She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, More than I was. That hit him like a bruise. They turned onto a quieter street lined with older buildings. A small coffee shop on the corner had fogged windows and a chalkboard sign outside that said, Hot chocolate today in crooked letters. Evelyn stopped in front of it. Dominic looked at her. Why are we stopping? Evelyn pointed at the sign with a faint smirk. Because I want hot chocolate. Dominic blinked. Now? Yes, now. Evelyn, She lifted a brow. Oh, don't start. It's not whiskey. It's not illegal. It's chocolate. Dominic opened his mouth, closed it, then let out a breath that was almost a laugh. You were never like this. Evelyn's smile was quick. Pregnancy is humbling. I cried yesterday because a commercial had a puppy. Dominic stared. You cried because of a puppy. Evelyn nodded like it was serious. A very determined puppy. He tried not to smile. Failed. Evelyn studied his expression, and something in her face shifted, like she was reminded of how easy it used to be to pull warmth out of him when no one else could. Then her guard returned. She pushed the door open. Warmth washed over them. The place smelled like espresso and cinnamon. A couple sat at a table near the window sharing a pastry. A teenage barista behind the counter looked up with the bored confidence of someone who had seen everything. Her gaze landed on Dominic. Her eyes widened. Dominic felt it instantly. Recognition. Not of him exactly, but of what he represented. Money, power, danger, some story she'd heard from someone's cousin. Evelyn noticed too. She stepped closer to Dominic, not touching him, but putting herself between him and the girl's fear. Dominic's throat tightened again. Evelyn walked to the counter. Hot chocolate, she said. Then after a beat, with extra whipped cream. The barista blinked. Sure. Evelyn glanced at Dominic. You want anything? Dominic looked at her like the question itself was too intimate. No. Evelyn tilted her head. You sure? Because you look like you need something. Dominic's eyes slid down to her mouth again before he could stop them. I do, he said, voice low. Evelyn went still. The barista cleared her throat loudly like she was suddenly very interested in the cash register. Evelyn's cheeks flushed. Dominic, she warned, but her voice had softened. He forced himself to look away. He didn't want to push. He didn't want to break what little thread she'd allowed. Evelyn paid with a card Dominic recognized, hers, not his, not a shared account. That small detail hit harder than he expected. They moved to a table in the corner. Dominic sat across from her, his long frame too big for the small chair. He looked like he didn't belong in a cozy coffee shop full of soft lighting and indie music. Evelyn did. She wrapped her hands around the mug when it came, inhaled deeply, and closed her eyes for a second like she was taking comfort seriously. Dominic watched her. He watched the way her coat opened slightly to reveal a simple sweater beneath, the way her necklace chain rested against her throat, the way she held the mug like it was a small piece of safety. What? she asked without